Hello and welcome to Cognito Key. Have you ever wondered what happens when you pay for something but it gets delivered to someone else by mistake? It just feels wrong, doesn't it? Well, believe it or not, the law has this fascinating solution. It's like a legal riddle, a contract that isn't really a contract. So let's dive in and figure out how this works.
Okay, imagine this. You order a beautiful dress for a special party. You're so excited, you're tracking the package, but it never arrives. And then you see your neighbor wearing it. She just thought it was a lovely surprise gift. You don't have a contract with her, so what now? Are you just out of pocket?
Not at all. This is exactly where the law steps in with a very clever fix. It's called a quasi-contract, and honestly, it's the hero of our story today.
So what on earth is it? A quasi-contract isn't something you sign. It's an obligation that a judge actually creates, looking back at what happened. A court basically says, hey, this isn't fair. One person gained something they shouldn't have, and it cost someone else. So they create this legal duty out of thin air just to make things right. Now, this might sound a little strange, a judge just creating an obligation like that, but it's all based on one really fundamental idea: fairness. This quote really gets to the heart of it. The law does not like it when someone gets unjustly wealthy, basically getting a benefit they didn't earn or deserve, especially when it's at someone else's expense. A quasi-contract is the law's way of hitting the reset button to make sure things are fair and balanced again. So even though the word contract is in the name, it's really important to remember that a quasi-contract is not a real contract. Let's break down exactly why. The difference is actually crystal clear. You know how a regular contract works, right? It's all about mutual agreement. Someone makes an offer, someone accepts, promises are made. But a quasi-contract, it's completely different. It's imposed by a court. It's not based on a promise you made, but on a duty that the law creates to stop an injustice. There was never any agreement to begin with. So let's just recap the key features here. It's imposed by law, not by agreement. The end result might look similar to a contract, but it's founded on a duty to be fair, not on a promise. And this is a big one. Your right is against a specific person. So in our dress example, you have a claim against your neighbor, not against the whole world. Okay, theory is great, but where does this actually show up in everyday life? Let's walk through a few really common scenarios. All right, first step. Say you're in a cafe, and you find a smartphone just sitting on a table. You pick it up. In that very moment, believe it or not, the law creates a quasi-contract between you and the owner, even though you have no idea who they are. Suddenly, you have legal duties. First, you have to take reasonable care of the phone. Second, you can't just start using it as your own. That's a big no-no. And third, your main job is to try and find the rightful owner and give it back. The law basically turns you into a temporary, responsible caretaker. Here's another really important one. Think about someone who can't legally enter into a contract, like a minor or someone with a mental incapacity. What happens if they need essentials like food or shelter and somebody provides it for them? Well, the law makes sure that the person who helped out can get reimbursed. But, and this is a really key detail, they can only be paid back from that person's existing property or assets. If that person has nothing, then nothing is owed. It's a way to be fair to the supplier while still protecting the vulnerable person. This one probably happens more often than you'd think. A non-gratuitous act is just a fancy term for doing something for someone without intending for it to be a freebie. So, for example, a gardener accidentally starts landscaping your yard instead of your neighbor's. You see it happening, you don't say a word, and you just let them finish. Now, for that gardener to get paid, they have to prove three things. First, that the work was done lawfully. Second, that they never intended to do it for free. It's their job, after all. And third, that you knowingly enjoyed the benefit of their work. If all three are true, the law says you gotta pay up. And our final case is maybe the most straightforward of all. Let's say your bank accidentally puts an extra 1,000 rupees in your account. Or worse, someone bullies you into paying a bill you don't actually owe. Here, the law doesn't mess around. The rule is simple. The person who wrongly received the money has to give it back. Whether it was a mistake or forced, it doesn't matter. It's a direct reversal of an unfair gain. Simple as that. So after running through all these examples, what is the one big idea you should take away from all of this? The key takeaway is this. A quasi-contract is the law's safety net. It jumps in when there's no formal agreement to prevent one person from unfairly benefiting at another person's expense. It is the ultimate weapon against something the law calls unjust enrichment. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This whole idea of imposed fairness. It's not just for courtrooms. Think about it for a second. Where else in your life, maybe with your family or friends, have you seen these unwritten rules of fairness step in, even when there was no formal promise or contract? I really hope this explainer helped shed some light on the pretty cool world of quasi-contracts. If you found this useful, please do us a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone who might be interested, and of course, subscribe to Cognito Key for more explainers like this one. Thanks for joining us.